Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle something that honestly causes a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. This idea of an unforgivable sin. But what if I told you that the real danger isn't about committing some horrible act, but maybe, just maybe, it's about misunderstanding how incredible God's grace really is? Let's get into it.
All right, so let's just get right to the heart of it. The question that really keeps people up at night. Is there some line you can cross, a point of no return, where God just says, nope, that's it, you're done?
And, verses like this one from Hebrews, well, this is exactly why this topic is so scary for people. I mean, when you read that, it sounds like there's this tripwire, right? That if you mess up in a certain way, after you know better, the deal's off. Forgiveness just runs out. And that creates this huge tension if you're trying to live a life of faith.
Okay, but to really get what this verse is saying, we have to start by clearing up what it's not talking about. And this is super important. The sources are really clear on this. The unforgivable sin has nothing to do with how big or how bad a specific action is.
I mean, just think about it for a second. The Bible is just packed with stories of people who did terrible, intentional things and were completely forgiven. You've got King David with his whole adultery and murder plot. You've got Peter, Jesus' right-hand man, who denied he even knew him 3 times. And Paul, he was literally hunting Christians down. Even the thief on the cross, a whole lifetime of crime, gets told he'll be in paradise. Every single one of those sins, as awful as they were, got covered.
And this is where things get really, really clear. Jesus himself says something that's just mind-blowing. He says every sin and blasphemy will be forgiven. Every single one. So right there, that tells you something crucial. We're not talking about a specific bad act. The problem has to be something else entirely.
So, that brings us to the real heart of the matter. The unforgivable sin isn't about a thing you do. It's about a final, hardened position, a stance you take in your heart and refuse to move from.
Yeah, the sources define it as this persistent, final state of unbelief. So it's not about tripping up or having a really bad day and doing something awful. It's about looking at the free gift of forgiveness God is holding out to you and just continually and finally saying no thanks. The analogy one source uses is perfect. It's like a judge pardons you and you just keep tearing up the paperwork, insisting, nope, I'm still guilty.
In fact, the book of Hebrews breaks this rejection down into 3 different attitudes. But as you're about to see, they all kind of point back to the very same thing, just refusing the one solution God provided for sin.
Okay, first up, trampling the Son of God. Wow, that sounds intense, right? But the sources explain it pretty simply. It just means you know what Jesus did, you know about the sacrifice, but you live your life as if it wasn't quite enough, as if it was incomplete. It's like looking at the cross and saying, yeah, that's a nice gesture, but it doesn't cover my stuff.
And see, this connects directly to the whole blasphemy against the Spirit thing. According to these texts, the Holy Spirit's main job is to convince us of this one truth. The work is finished and you are forgiven. So if you constantly reject that message, you're essentially calling the Spirit a liar. You're insulting the very grace he was sent to show you. And that is the absolute core of the issue.
So this leads to a really powerful, maybe even kind of surprising shift in thinking. The sources point out that when we accept Christ but still cling to this identity of being just a sinner, well, that might not be humility. It could actually be a subtle kind of pride.
One of the sources uses this fantastic courtroom analogy that just makes it so clear. Imagine you're on trial. A huge debt you could never repay has been paid for you. The judge bangs the gavel and declares you righteous, free to go. And then you stand up and argue, no, Your Honor, I object. I'm still guilty. You're not being humble in that moment. You're showing contempt for the entire court, for the judge's verdict, and for the one who paid your debt.
So that's the big difference right there. True humility isn't about constantly focusing on how sinful we are. It's about being humble enough to just accept God's incredible declaration of grace over us. It's about being able to say thank you for a gift you know you didn't earn. The pride part is when we insist on defining ourselves by the very sin Christ already took care of.
Okay, so this is all some pretty deep theology, but so what? Why does this actually matter in our day-to-day lives? Well, the answer is, it changes everything. Absolutely everything.
For starters, it completely frees you from that crippling fear that you might accidentally step on a spiritual landmine and commit some secret, unforgivable sin. The Christian life stops being this terrifying tightrope walk, and instead it becomes about leaning into the joy and the freedom of a gift that's already been given, a gift that is total and can't be taken back.
Let me put it this way, as simply as I can. People don't end up separated from God because their sin was too big.
They end up separated because they refuse to believe that His grace is bigger. The door is wide open. The only thing that stops anyone from walking through is their own refusal to take that step.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. If this whole fear of an unforgivable sin is really just a huge misunderstanding, a failure to grasp a grace that is so total it's almost hard to believe, then what changes for you today, if you dare to actually believe it? Because accepting this isn't just about getting your theology right. It's a real invitation to start living with a new kind of assurance, a new kind of freedom, and a whole lot of gratitude, starting right now.